So I'm going to turn things over to Dave Hill. My name is Dave Johnston. I'm the Deputy Regional Director for the Mass DP Southeast Regional Office. And we're here today for a public hearing. This is not a public meeting, it's a public hearing, so we really don't have an agenda. It's not really about an informational discussion as much as it is an opportunity for you folks to provide official comment on the license that we are evaluating. To my left is Dave Hill. He is our regional engineer, an environmental engineer with the Waterways program, so he looks at these applications every day. To his left is Liz School-Harris, our second chief for waterways and wetlands in the Southeast Regional Office of Mass DEP. So I'm going to turn things over to Dave Hill, and he will read in the official transcript that kicks off our public hearing today.
Could you use the mic, please?
Unfortunately, the mics aren't on. We've been informed that these mics only go live if we're part of a live television broadcast. And in spite of the fact that a gentleman is taping us today, he's not part of a live television broadcast. So we're going to have to do our best to speak up. And when you folks give comments, we will ask that you also speak up. And we'll also ask that you come on up to the podium. Even though there's not a microphone, we will have a better opportunity to hear you clearly. And I think standing up above the crowd will help everyone hear what you're saying. So in terms of the volume, can everybody in the room hear me? Not well. Okay, then I'll stand up. Try to run through it a little more quickly. Okay, good. Well, that's informative. Thanks. I'm Dave Johnston, the Deputy Regional Director for the Southeast Regional Office of Mass DEP. We're here today for a public hearing for a license from Entergy for 2 moorings. To my left is Dave Hill. Dave is an environmental engineer in the Southeast Regional Office of Mass DEP. To his left is Liz School-Harris, the Section Chief of the Division of Waterways and Wetlands in the Southeast Region of Mass DEP. So today we're here for the public hearing. I'm going to turn things over to Dave Hill. He will read an official transcript that will kick off the public hearing. This is a public hearing, not a public informational meeting, so it's not really an informal discussion with open questions and answers. It's really your opportunity to provide official, verbal comment on this license. You'll also have an opportunity to provide written comment. We would encourage you to do so. And the good reason for providing written comment is if you provide written comment, we'll have your information. We will be able to provide you with a copy of our draft decision. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Dave Hill, and Dave will read things in to the record and get us started.
Good morning. My name is David Hill. I'm an environmental engineer with the Mass DEP Waterways Regulation Program. With me today from the Mass DEP Southeast Regional Office are David Johnston, Deputy Regional Director, and Elizabeth School-Harris, Section Chief, Wetlands and Waterways Program. Together we constitute the hearing panel. Welcome to the public hearing on this Tuesday, November 18, 2014, for the Waterways application number W14-4157, an application submitted by Entergy Nuclear Operations, Inc., to construct and maintain 2 mooring buoys at 600 Rocky Hill Road in the municipality of Plymouth, in and over flow tidelands of Cape Cod Bay. The proposed project has been determined to be water dependent. The format for today's hearing is as follows. I will read the public notice into the record. The public notice describes the purpose of the hearing, written comment procedures, and appeal rights. Then I will turn the floor over to the applicant for a brief presentation describing the proposed project, the area of the site within jurisdiction of Mass General Law, Chapter 91, and how the project complies with the applicable provisions of the Waterways Regulations. Thereafter, I will open the public hearing for public testimony, first calling on any elected or appointed officials, and then members of the general public. After the close of the testimony, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make any closing remarks. please direct any questions to me, and I will determine the appropriate party to answer. Does anyone have any questions regarding this format or other questions?
Yes?
One question.
Tell me, where did written comments go?
I will be reading that in the public notice. And also, on the chair, right as you came in, I did leave copies of the public notice. At the end of that public notice is my address where comments will be submitted. Okay, I'm going to read the public notice. Notice of license application pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 91, Waterways License Application Number W144157, Entergy Nuclear Operations, Inc. Notification date of this public notice was November 4, 2014. The public hearing date is today, November 18th, and the comment period closes December 8th, 2014. Public notice is hereby given by the Waterways application by Entergy Nuclear Operations, Inc. to construct and maintain 2 mooring buoys at 600 Rocky Hill Road in the municipality of Plymouth, in and overflow tidelands of Cape Cod Bay. The proposed project has been determined to be water dependent. The Department of Environmental Protection Waterways Program will conduct a public hearing on the aforesaid project on Tuesday, November 18, 2014, 10 a.m. at the Plymouth Town Hall, Mayflower Room, 11 Lincoln Street, Plymouth, Mass. The department will conduct a public hearing in order to receive information to be used in its decision on whether to grant waterways permit and licenses pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 91. The department will consider all written comments on this waterways application received within 20 days of the close of the public hearing. Failure of any agreed person or group of 10 citizens or more with at least 5 of the 10 residents residing in the municipality in which the license or permitted activity is located to submit written comments to the Waterways Program by the public comments deadline will result in a waiver of any right to an adjudicatory hearing in accordance with 310 CMR 913-4C. Additional information regarding this application may be obtained by contacting the Waterways Regulation Program at 508-946-2730. Project plans and documents for this application are on file with the Waterways Regulation Program for public viewing by appointment only at the address below. Written comments must be addressed to David Hill, Environmental Engineer, DEP Waterways Regulation Program, 20 Riverside Drive, Lakeville, Mass. 02347. At this point, I'd like to turn the hearing over. Yep.
We have a lot of people in the room that don't have seats. Can DEP figure out how it can make these people comfortable for 2 hours? Can we use some of these chairs up here?
Sure.
Move them back?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah, I didn't get that. DEP Waterways or something, 20 Riverside Drive.
Also, can you provide an email address to submit comments?
Yes, I will. Right up in the board, I think it means to me. My email address is nate.state.ma.us.
And will they be accepted both formats?
Yes, it will. Again, my email, david.hill@state.ma.us. I apologize for the seating, using these public hearings. Yeah, actually, 10 or 20, that isn't good showing. This one here is on.
Would you repeat your email address one more time?
Yeah, on my
Unfortunately, the mics are not working, and I have no control over them. It's david.hill@state.ma.us.
Thank you.
Right, there's a few spots up front, and people want to sit there. Now I'd like to call Eric Glass, from consultant for Entergy, to present the project.
Thank you, David. My name is Eric Glass, professional engineer, principal, Beals and Thomas. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Entergy Nuclear Operations, Inc. I have a short presentation, facts regarding this project. Project summary. This project is a result of an order in the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission for proposed safety improvements to be made within the intake abatement at Pilgrim Station. These safety improvements consist of 2 moorings, an associated outhaul system. They're auger-driven helical power moorings that can be driven into the sand bottom. Have minimal environmental impact compared to a typical weighted mooring system that most boat moorings consist of. That was the alternative that was evaluated. On the land side, the outhaul system would be attached above the mean high water line. This system, the mooring and outhaul system, is only intended to be used in the event of what is referred to as a beyond design basis external event. In such event, the system would be used to deploy semi-rigid cooling water piping during that event or during a training exercise. In terms of the project chronology, how we got to where we are today, back in May, we prepared and submitted our Chapter 91 license application to DEP. June 20th marked the start of the public comment period. In July, the public comment period closed. We reviewed the public comments that were submitted, and in September 12th, we prepared a formal response to those comments. September 26th, we submitted our final plans for the license. Today is the Chapter 91 public hearing, and later this week, we'll note that NEPA will be issuing a decision whether or not fail-safe review will be required for this project. To give an overview of the project location, Pilgrim Station is located off of Rocky Hill Road, south of Plymouth Harbor, approximately 1 mile north of Priscilla Beach. Specifically, the project is located within the existing intake and abatement for Pilgrim Station. This slide here shows the regulatory resource areas. We have the mean low water line as this dashed line indicated here. Mean high water line indicated here. This area within the intake and abatement is the original barge berth landing area when the station was constructed. This barge landing area was created and still exists today. The proposed moorings would be located beyond the mean low water line, and the landside anchors are located above the mean high water line. This exhibit here, we're using this to indicate that proposed moorings are located above the historic mean low water line. So what we have, there are 2 plans here that are overlaid on this exhibit. The information is in black is from 1967. It is the pre-construction conditions before the station was built. You can see this is the zero elevation line, mean low water line. It's located historically much further out. Pilgrim Station and the area where these moorings will be placed, the existing barge berth landing area, are all in former uplands. So prior to construction of Pilgrim Station, this area where this project would occur was upland area and was not tidal. This photograph here shows the existing conditions today. The foreground, this is the barge berth landing area. As you can see, the riprap revetment for the intake embayment. And in this case, there's just an access point for barge landings. Proposed moorings are located just beyond the water line, just beyond the existing riprap revetments for the intake embayment. Here's a cross-section of the moorings. They're very similar to many of the thousands of boat moorings that are located throughout Cape Cod Bay. The exception being the use of eco mooring, helical mooring system that we augured into the bottom. Again, less environmental impact than a typical bottom weighted anchor, which takes up a greater area of the bottom surface and sits on the ocean floor. Connected to that anchor will be a 1-inch mooring line that goes to a float. There'll be a snatch block pulley. Very simple. The outhaul system is very simple in that it uses 2 pulleys with a 3/4 inch nylon rope and the mooring. And this pulley will be connected to a landside anchor with a similar pulley. And again, that pulley system will be used to connect semi-rigid intake hose only in the event of a training exercise or a beyond design basis external event, and will be used to pull that hose out to the mooring, which is located beyond the water line. In closing, I'd just like to note that the project complies with all Chapter 91 applicable regulations. The other permits, the local, federal levels have already been received for this project. This project does not trigger any NEPA thresholds. As Mr. Hill noted, it has already been determined to be a water-dependent use. And another key point that I'd like to emphasize is that in the aftermath of the events on September 11th, 2001, the Federal Coast Guard created a safety and security zone around Pilgrim Station. So the public access to this area is already restricted under that order. And so this project would not further restrict public use and access to these sidelands. That is all I have for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Now, I'd like to open the public participation part of the hearing. Initially, we would like to start with any elected or appointed officials. But other than that, I think Dave wanted to know how many people are actually going to provide comments.
And just before we start, we did not have sign-ins relative to who wants to speak. A lot of folks in the room. So I'd just like to get a show of hands if you think you're going to speak, just so we have a sense of how many folks we're going to be accommodating, so we can talk about the timeline for speaking. Thank you, that's really helpful. We've allotted 5 minutes per speaker, and if you haven't completed your comments, you can come back around at the end and wrap it up. But rather than have folks wait a long time, if people have a lot to say, I want to give everybody the opportunity to speak at least once after waiting for the 5 minutes allotted to all the speakers in front of them. So what we'll be doing is we'll ask for, again, a show of hands. We'll start from the front, and we'll work back, asking the folks who put their hand up to speak. And we'll have 5 minutes to speak. I'll give you a 60-second warning and ask you to wrap up. And then if, as I said, if you have more to say, feel free to sit down and come on back around a second time. Please try to keep your comments focused on the license at hand. This is a big facility, and they do a lot of things. We're not here to discuss and evaluate the entire facility. We're here to take comments on the license at hand. So, any quick process questions before we start? Yeah?
Can the speakers identify themselves and where they're from when they come to the mic for the help of the meeting?
Yes, that is a good general rule, one that we adhere to on all hearings. So thank you for the reminder of this. So please do, when you speak, come to the podium and identify yourself and your location or affiliation, and then commence your speaking. Any other questions? Amen.
The license application is applying to the project that was described by the representative from Carlton-Foss,
Yes, the 2 moorings.
but it included the alcohol system as part of that project as far as what was projected on the screen.
We are looking at the 2 helical anchored moorings and the device attached to the top, just the mooring structure. We're not looking at the landside aspects of those moorings because they're outside the jurisdictional area. Is that clear?
That's clear.
Any other questions? All right, why don't we get started?
First, with any municipal officials, state or elected officials?
Do we have any state or elected municipal officials that would like to speak today? Okay, I guess not, so let's go right to the folks we have in the room. Again, we're going to start from the front and work our way back, and please give yourself 5 minutes to speak. So, first couple of rows, quick hands. Pine, you're the first hand up, so please come on forward.
Good morning, and thank you, DEP, for answering our request to hold this public hearing. We appreciate it. We know it's not always, but we do appreciate it this time. I am Pine Dubois. I'm the Executive Director of the Jones River Watershed Association in the town of Kingston. And although I am not an engineer, as Fields and Thomas has so noted, I do have experience reviewing plans as I worked for 6 years with the conservation, as a conservation agent for the town of Hingham, and I was on the Kingston Conservation Commission for 10 years, and I have experience reading and looking at and studying engineering plans. I'm also the daughter of an engineer. So, with that said, I would like to discuss the public purpose a little bit, and I want to say to DEP that I think that the moorings are there because there is a need, and the need is a public purpose, and the public purpose is safety. And so if the moorings do not answer the need to enhance public safety, then there's no reason to issue the license. And in fact, if issuing the license prevents the public from being safe, as I think it will, then you should absolutely not issue the license. In fact, the result of the order and a failure of the NRC order will assure that Entergy does not have a plan in place to answer a beyond design basis storm in this area. We have video footage. Karen, I don't know how to make the video footage work. I don't know how to make it work. Anyway, we have video footage that shows the storm that took out Berks, which is 2.3 miles away from Pilgrim. It sits about 6 feet lower on the landscape. However, the Berks building, which we can show you the video later when we figure out how to make it work, was taken out in the storm, and it is higher than where the portable pump will be placed at the Pilgrim Station in a comparable or worse storm. This slide is an Entergy slide. It shows the 1995 plan, and it's simply there to represent the difficulty that we have in assessing plans, because each time we look at a plan from Entergy, it's using a different datum. In this case, it was using mean sea level, which is convenient because that's what FEMA uses. And you can see that in the, up here, the VE zone is a velocity zone of 18. You can see here a velocity zone of 17. This elevation contour right here is 10, whereas this is 10 feet higher at 20. And yet behind the turbine building, we have an 18.5. There are no walls around the structure other than the after-the-fact seawall with a chain link fence and razor wire. There's to keep terrorists out, but the sea doesn't know it's a terrorist, and so it won't respect that. This is the plan that Entergy showed you. It shows the mean high water line there. That's where the pump will be. However, note that this line and this line are velocity zone lines, and this elevation here is 21.43 and 22.43. So I don't know how 9.8 is between 21 and 22. That, however, is where the portable pump will be. These are the locations of the alcohol moorings. Those alcohol mooring, the buoys, I'm sorry, my hand is shaking, is at negative 5, according to the bathymetry that was provided. The spring high tide line is negative 2.2. So if you have a spring low tide at negative 2.2 and a mooring at 5, I don't know how you have 5 feet of water over that. In addition to that, you have wave action there, and we are fairly certain that helical pilings, because we don't know how long they are, will not endure the pounding of the surf in that location. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that this line is the elevation 18 mean sea level, and we do not have a contour line for that shown on this plan, and that would be useful. This is the plan which shows that a minimum of 5 feet of water is supposed to be on site, and this is the plan that shows what the snatch block and pulley looks like.
About a minute left, Mike.
Okay, thank you. I overlaid their plan on a June 2014 Google Earth plan just to demonstrate where, where the buoys are, where the line is, where the alcohol line ends, actually. And I got it as close to what I thought were the contours based on where high tide was. I think DEP can do better than this, and I think Entergy can also do better than this. But in the current configuration, this is what we have. Rather than in the intake structure, this is the area which has been dredged before. Under all of the previous dredge permits, there has not been dredging where the moorings are going. They have dredged the area to create the boat ramp under the 399 license, and we have not found that license to be recorded since it was for Pilgrim 2. We're not sure that it was. We're concerned about the discharge of water and how it's handled at Fukushima. This is a view from last summer at high tide. You can see the great elevation above the sea without a wave on it. And as far as the filling is concerned, that discharge canal was all wetlands, and so I believe it was flowed tidelands back in 1970 when it was developed. This is
Please try to wrap up.
37, excuse me?
Please try to wrap up.
I will. Please listen to me while I'm doing this stuff. This is the area of the boat ramp. This is from 1984 map, where it was the shoreline itself was not pushed back. This is a plan of construction where this was, wherever it is. This is the discharge canal, and the boat ramp is not yet built. And I'll leave that with you there, and just discuss when I come back mean tide level, and that this plan is a mean sea level, not mean low water like the rest of your plans. And so their mean low water, the mean low water is not equivalent to mean sea level, and I know you know that. Thank you.
My name is Ed DeWitt. I'm the Executive Director of the Association to Preserve Cape Cod. We're 5,000 Cape Codders who are interested in this. Chapter 91 is framed and couched in the public trust doctrine. And in order for you to carry out your statutory and common law responsibilities under Chapter 91, you have to look beyond the moorings. And you have to look at what is and how the public's benefit is being protected in this application. The public trust is that these are lands that belong to everyone. Entergy does not have a right to these moorings. And we have to look and see what the totality of the circumstances are in carrying out their proposed project. We already know that Pilgrim is poorly designed and functionally obsolescent. I don't think there's any question about that. Even Mr. Lass pointed out that this project is because it is beyond the design basis and the expectation of a beyond design basis event at Pilgrim. And that because they have not carried out a functional design and done this, these moorings are not in the public interest. They allow Pilgrim to continue functioning when the plant should be closed. And even though it looks like two very, very minor moorings that are being installed here, that I think your responsibilities are to look far beyond the moorings and look at the impact of those moorings and the ability for Entergy to continue to operate a poorly designed, functionally obsolescent plant. And if I have any time, I'll yield it to Pine.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the front couple rows who would like to speak? Please.
Hi, my name is Candace Perry. I live in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. I'm a member of a group called the Down Cape Downwinders. And I just wanted to comment on the application process and the comment process. It says that you want to hear comments from groups with 10 citizens or more, with at least 5 of the 10 living in the municipality in which the license is located. And I just wanted to comment, I brought my map with me. This is Cape Cod. Here you are. Here I am. But what happens in this bay affects me. And so I am your neighbor, and I hope you will take comments from those of us who live on the rest of the Cape. And I yield the rest of my time.
Sir?
Hi, my name is Bill Maurer. I'm from Falmouth, Massachusetts. I'd like to thank DEP for making time to have this hearing. I spend a lot of time in political concerns about the power plant. Living on Cape Cod, everything that happens regarding the power plant affects us. You know, our concern, what's happening for us is we're being trapped on Cape Cod if there is an accident for the period of time that it takes to evacuate the Plymouth area. So everything that Entergy does has consequences for us on Cape Cod. Okay. As one of the previous speakers said, you know, the Helix eco mooring system in itself has very little environmental impact. But the system, the flex system that allows it to, that it's part of, could have serious environmental impact. This is a slide of how they applied water at Fukushima. And this is a fire truck right down here spraying water onto the plant. Now Entergy's initial plan for this flex system was to hook the suction lines to a strainer, to a pump, and then to the low pressure cooling system of the plant. And as long as that happens, presumably this cooling water that they take from Cape Cod Bay will not be contaminated by radiation. But this helix mooring and the whole flex system allows them to apply water to the plant in this manner. If you apply water to the plant in this manner, it's not captured, it flows back into Cape Cod Bay. So, and this is how they did it at Fukushima. Also, in a letter that Entergy sent to DEP on the 12th of September 2014, they state that the moorings will allow Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station personnel to attach hoses to pumps, or even the Plymouth Fire Department to connect hoses from fire trucks. That's a fire truck, and that's how they apply the water. So, I'm thinking that, a license for these two moorings is almost like a license to move Cape Cod Bay, if an emergency escalates to this situation. This is another picture of Fukushima. This is what I believe to be a concrete pump lift truck, and they're lifting water and just spraying it on the reactor. This is Burns. Another thing about this system is that it doesn't work in all conditions. The strainers were designed for still water inland pond conditions. The application here is for coastal, beyond still water marine condition. So this is Burke's. The flex system will come into play if there's a loss of offsite power. Loss of offsite power is usually coincident with an extreme weather event like this. This is Burke's again. This is just a few miles down the coast. This is also Burke's. Just rollers rolling in. I'm not sure that you could haul this strainer out on a outhaul line, or a skiff line as I call it, through this kind of surf. This is again close to Burke's. This is actually like a little boat ramp, probably quite similar to the boat ramp that's at Pilgrim right now. With waves rolling in. I personally don't think you could pull a strainer through that surf. This is the strainer. It's made by Kochak Company. Basically, it's firefighting equipment. And this is designed for inland freshwater pond conditions. I talked to the Kochak people that modified this strainer for Entergy's application. But what I would ask the application to include would be a performance evaluation of this strainer and beyond inland stillwater pond conditions. And that makes it applicable for use in the marine environment. This is how they're normally used in a stillwater pond. A little bit different than this. And again, that's the fire truck applying water.
About a minute left.
That's it. More or less, just in closing, I think I talked to the town of Plymouth and the state of Massachusetts to in light of Fukushima, to consider what is going to happen to the massive amounts of water that are required to cool a reactor, Pilgrim, possibly, during a meltdown situation. Allowing it to flow back into Cape Cod Bay is making Cape Cod Bay Entergy's private heat sink for an accident and contamination. Thank you.
I'm Mary Lampert, Director of Pilgrim Watch, also Chair of the Duxbury Nuclear Advisory Committee, a community within the 10-mile EPC. My focus is that project to be approved should serve a purpose. This Rube Goldberg plan of entities does not serve the purpose, is unlikely to serve the purpose Therefore, it should not be approved, because if it's approved, then this joke of a system will be in place, and we will not get what we will need in the event of a loss of coolant accident, which is what the order requires. First, you should look at what the assumptions underlying the external event that they are planning for. The flex equipment, flex stands for diverse and flexible mitigation equipment in English. The flex equipment does not deal with tornadoes, number one. The flex equipment deals with an earthquake of the severity that was thought many years ago, not the new understanding of the type of earthquake that we can now expect after the earthquake near in Virginia that showed that from 400 miles away, we here can feel the effects twice as before. Senator Markey and Warren have looked at this. They said the new seismic hazard was found to exceed the safe shutdown earthquake at ground-shaking frequencies that are most likely to threaten the equipment needed to safely shut down the reactor. Also, not just the equipment to shut down the reactor, so increasing the probability of a disaster, but the equipment that will be necessary for this
On like this and flow off the building into the groundwater and into the bay? Or is it going to be pumped into some circulation system inside the building? In addition, is it going to be used on the spent fuel pool, which is storing over 40 years worth of nuclear waste at Pilgrim? And that nuclear waste also has to be kept cool. Right now they use municipal groundwater wells that also run on electric pumps to cool the spent fuel pool. And the nuclear waste in there is so toxic that if you stand next to it for a few minutes, you're dead. So we need those pumps, that pool to be cool. And this contraption has not been shown to be effective to do that. So where are they going to put this water once it gets inside the reactor building and the facility? Where is it going to go once it's used? If it's sprayed like this and it's draining off into the bay and into the groundwater, which is a sole source aquifer designated by EPA that is already being contaminated by Entergy since at least 2006, Entergy has been leaking radionuclides into the groundwater. You can go to the DPH website and get that documentation. So it's going to be draining off into groundwater that's already contaminated. You should be looking at the cumulative effects of that. If Entergy thinks that it's going to dump this water into the discharge canal under its existing Clean Water Act permit that expired 18 years ago, that is not allowed under the Clean Water Act. That Clean Water Act permit that they have to dump the 510 million gallons a day that they take in their cooling water system is specifically for the current cooling water intake structure that was erected 42 years ago. It's now outdated technology. That permit does not allow them to take this new water using this contraption and this new pump and this new discharge intake point to use the canal to dump that water. That is not allowed on the permit, under the permit. So Entergy needs to come up with a description and a permit for dumping this water into Cape Cod Bay. Until they do that, you cannot find that there's a proper public purpose, and because they have not complied with the Clean Water Act. I'd also like to address this question about the federal safety and security zone that Entergy alluded to. That safety and security zone was adopted improperly by the Department of Homeland Security in violation of Chapter 91. They never got a Chapter 91 license to exclude the public from 1 mile of shorefront in front of Pilgrim in order to benefit this private corporation from Louisiana. So That is a red herring that has no bearing on whether this particular license application serves the public purpose. And we'll be addressing the violations by Homeland Security in discussions with CZM and DEP later. That's it. Our bay is not Entergy's dump. They need to get a license, a Clean Water Act permit for this Rube Goldberg contraption that is supposed to protect us and our community, our businesses, and our economy in the event of a nuclear meltdown at Pilgrim. Thank you.
First 5 or 10 rows, please, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Diane Turco from Harwich on Cape Cod, and I just want to say I'm heartened to know that Entergy has provided a less environmentally impact anchor for these moorings. That's really thoughtful of them to consider the environment. It's the first time I've ever heard of that. When you talk about beyond basis design external event, do you understand what that means? That means a nuclear meltdown. That means a catastrophe. That means we are all in danger. The use of this mooring system is a little bit too late. The accident's already started, and it's just too late. We need to be proactive, and we need to prevent an accident, and that's why Pilgrim needs to be closed. We don't need to have moorings that are just a big joke. We're going to spray water on the reactor to cool it down. Again, it's too late. A catastrophe has happened, and we need to prevent that and close it. Pine was right. Entergy doesn't have the answer to a design basis external event. So we're asking the government to protect the people, and that's what your job is to look at this nonsense and reject it and do what needs to be done and close the reactor, because we don't need this. We need it to be shut down. Thank you.
Thank you. The woman in the back's waiting for a while. Come on up, please.
Joanne Wheeler from Canton, Massachusetts, and I'm very sensitive to everyone in the state of Massachusetts with this problem. DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. That department is to protect the citizens of the state, our wildlife, our environment, marine life, water, everything. And this plant has caused a problem, and there are problems there existing already. It's beyond its ultimate functioning. It's an old plant, and I too feel that the plant should be shut down. It should stop operating, and that's my feeling. Short and simple.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the people who have given so much public information, because it certainly
Can I
fills
just grab your
in.
name, please?
I'm sorry?
Your name,
I'm
please?
very sorry. Lilia Franton
Thank you.
from North Falmouth. I'd like to thank the people who gave so much public information tonight, because in my reading of the information that I was able to get, I never heard all of the background about the problems that would be caused by this peculiar contraption that they're putting forward as a big safety measure. My question is, I was shocked that there was no photograph of this contraption having been set up somewhere so we could see what it looked like. I was shocked that this was more or less of a verbal description of something that was so peculiar. When I was reading it, I could not envision, and I thought, well, we'll get a picture today. I would like to know, is this an experiment? Has this been proven to be a working, functional answer that you are passing judgment on? Or is this just some paper product that we're supposed to say, oh, gee, that sounds kind of cute? We would like to have photographic documentation that this has already been effective before we are allowing the state to put this in as some sort of a safety fix. So do we have pictures? Do we have documents? Do we have prior documentation that this is already working elsewhere?
This is really not the kind of meeting where we take a lot of questions and Q&A. If you have a question about the process,
Okay.
or about what's specifically being installed, we can answer that, whether it's
So then I guess
way
I'll
back
just
or
say,
illegal, we can answer that.
I guess I'll assume the answer is no. And if there were such a picture, if there were such an evidence that we could actually see, it would have been presented. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Bostic, and I live on White Horse Beach. I've been on White Horse Beach for over 50 years. And in the course of that time, I have found the sea level to rise. Flooding now is a huge issue. So I can't see it any different from my house as to the power plant. I also live in that wonderful danger zone. I am a mile or less of being instantly dead if something happens to that plant. I also want to say that as a previous boat owner of a 26-footer, that I used to use 5/8 mooring lines for storms. And I don't know why we don't have more than that put on these moorings. They can break away very easily, because many boats do break away in the harbor. You could ask the harbor master about that. Let's see, the other thing. Okay, from my house, you can sit there and you can watch 10-foot waves crashing right in front of you. If anybody was foolish enough to walk on the beach or go anywhere near White Horse Beach, they would be pounded right into the sand. I provided many pictures to Ned Shan in proof of what can happen on White Horse Beach. The water runs right down Taylor Ave and floods it completely. And it's very violent water. I would not want to go up against Mother Nature.
Any more folks like to comment? Please come forward, sir.
My name is Robert Miles from Occupy Hingham. I've been a citizen of Massachusetts for 7 years. Many years ago when I was in the Army, I visited Hiroshima, and I know exactly what nuclear power can do. It's been my experience that corporations in this country, especially energy companies, very often take the cheapest way out. And it seems to me that this is an unproven technique, and it's a cheap, quick fix that looks good on paper. But just like the evacuation of the whole area here to a safe zone in practicality, it's never been done, and it's probably not going to happen the way it looks on paper. So my skepticism, same skepticism that I had about Enron Corporation, Tokyo Electric Power Company, and British Petroleum, is that this is a cheap way out for a corporation which puts profits above people. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nancy Nowak from Duxbury. I'm part of the Duxbury Nuclear Advisory Committee and concerned citizen. I have a brief question, I think. It has been said, but I'm reiterating it, of what is the best practice for this problem? There are 100 nuclear power plants, plus or minus, in the country that are dealing with this issue, and what research has been done with them, and what criteria is NRC using to establish a safe project, and how is the networking going, the very baseline for a safe project that will reduce our anxiety, the fear that when you go to the Cape and even in the immediate area along the South Shore, people who know anything have concerns and it impacts all our lives and the future of our environment here. Thank you.
Please, ma'am, second row. Yes, please, sir. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rish Godov. I live in Duxbury. I'm a member of the Duxbury Advisory Committee and Pilgrim Coalition. And basically, I'm here as a neighbor of Pilgrim. I live 11 miles from the plant. And, you know, I feel very concerned about this fix, this post-Fukushima lesson learned, and that what we're presented with is this system that seems not proven and somewhat risky to pour water on a nuclear power plant and spent fuel pools to cool them down, because the problem is the overheating is the problem. You lose electricity, there's overheating, there's a fire, there's a meltdown. So this is the response the NRC has come up with, and it's their safety response. It doesn't seem to me to be enough. I think there are probably better answers to make us safer. Perhaps in Japan it was the loss of electricity, really, that was the problem. Perhaps we could look at added electricity underground cables. Perhaps we could move the spent fuel rods that are overcrowded in that pool out and put them into dry casks, which would reduce the risk of a tremendous fire when they overheat, because we can't cool them down. That's a very major danger to us. And I won't take too much of your time because the speakers have been extraordinary. But I do want to say that in my reading, I have found that TEPCO in Japan acknowledged in 2011 that contaminated water was leaking for some time from their accident at the plant. 300,000 tons, 71,895 gallons were pouring into the sea a day. TEPCO planned to store 400,000 tons, or 95 million gallons of contaminated water, and planned on adding an additional 300,000 tons of capacity over the next 3 years. This is what they said in 2011. TEPCO had to deal with an ever-increasing amount of contaminated water, nearly 150,000 tons, 35.9 million gallons a year. Now, I believe they announced just recently they have run out of space. So this issue of pouring water on this plant does create another danger, which is an ecological disaster. So we have compounded our disaster in a way. We have saved ourselves in one way and created another disaster. So I would really appreciate it if the DEP and NRC could take this seriously. We live here. You know, and my home is not a shelter. I will not be evacuated. I live in a 200-year-old house. I don't think it's going to protect me from radiation, no matter what I do, really. And so please, let's be serious. Let's demand the right response and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I've been moved by these people that are coming up here.
Can we say your name, please?
I'm Elaine Dickinson from Harwich, Massachusetts. I live on Cape Cod, where people are paying attention to what's going on in Plymouth with the nuclear power station. 42-year-old, a twin to Fukushima, which is still a nuclear nightmare. And this is the best fix that you can come up with after studying what's happened in Japan. The EPA, the P stands for protection. Who are you protecting? Entergy Corporation or the citizens? It's profit over people's safety.
Gentleman in the end. Yes, sir.
John Nichols, New Orleans, I'm not affiliated. The applicant states the proposed mooring is presumed to serve a public purpose since it's water dependent, provides greater benefit than detriment to public rights in the tidelands. However, if a project is water dependent, the presumed proper purpose of the project may be overcome if a clear showing is made by a municipal, state, regional, or federal agency that requirements beyond those contained in 310 CMR 9.00 are necessary to prevent overriding detriment to a public interest which the agency is responsible for protecting. These additional requirements are necessary. The DEP needs to deny licensing because, as designed, the project does not serve a proper public purpose. The DEP, under 310 CMR 9.01, parentheses 2, is responsible for protecting the public's interest in tidelands in accordance with the public trust doctrine, for protecting the public health, safety, and general welfare as it may be affected by any project. This project does not protect the public health, safety, and welfare because of sloppy construction of the pulley system. It may not work. Therefore, that would allow the plant to melt down and spew radiation every place. Also, if the system does work, we have no assurance that the water that is sprayed on the plant will not go into Cape Cod Bay, thus irradiating the bay. The construction of the pulley system is so slidey and slipshod that whether it will work is chancy. In a small storm or a big radiation situation, can energy personnel or firefighters, if available, even get to the site? The access road for a truck hauling the pump may be underwater or not passable. The shed holding the truck and pump has a pull-up door in the garage, which could be unopenable due to debris. The key to the truck or tractor that is in the shed is reported to be in the control room. The control room, in the event of a meltdown, a prospective meltdown of the plant, may not even be accessible. If the truck or tractor may not start, the pull start generator may not start. I did not see a description of regular maintenance or checks to prevent these failures. If there are going to be there are two buoys. If there are going to be two hoses, we need two pumps because one would just one apply to two hoses. If one of the hoses doesn't work, then that may just suck air and prevent the other pump from working. How can energy personnel or firefighters stand on the breakwater of the beach in a violent storm and manipulate the pulleys? What if the pulleys break or become clogged with debris? What if the hose breaks loose and is on the bottom, moves around, they clog with mud? The DEP thus needs to make a clear showing that requirements to overcome these disadvantages and possible failures are necessary to prevent an overriding detriment to the public interest which the agency is responsible for protecting. Even if you do strengthen the system, making it a fail-safe system, a permanent installation, we do not have the assurance that irradiated water will not enter the bay and violate Massachusetts environmental laws. Also, under 310 CMR 9.35 parentheses 4, Energy is required to provide compensation for interfering with public rights in the tidelands in front of Pilgrim. I saw no provision in the application that says that they're going to provide such compensation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann Bingham, 7880 Cedar Street in Sharon, Massachusetts. I just wanted to make 2 comments. The first is to vouch for our 3 hearing officers here, to the 100 people in the room. I worked with each of them for 22 years when I worked at Mass DEP, and I think you would not find any 3 other civil servants who take their jobs as seriously and are as careful about the matters that are put before them. And the second point I wanted to make is that in the 8 years since I left the department, I think today is the first day that I wish I was back over there. And the reason I wish I was back over there is because this is such a unique and complicated situation. As I've looked at and worked on Pilgrim over the last 3 years, it doesn't seem to me that there's any program that the department handles that's not invoked one way or another in the matter for you. Yes, we're here today only on Chapter 91, but when you follow the hose or you follow the history, every other program that you administer is involved here. And I just think that, you can see the interest that has grown over the years. We have 100 people here today, and you're being given the material from everyone's thoughtful research into this to do your job and carefully look at this very important issue. And I thank you for the time you're putting in.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Don Barton. I'm from Acton, Massachusetts. I just have a few comments. After hearing what's been presented so far, I can only equate this to a Hail Mary pass in terms of a solution to the intricate problems that are engaged here. To me, it's just fast and loose from every direction. In that context, I would say that we have to remember that when Governor Volpe broke ground on this in 1967, and then when it was commissioned in 72, the plant wasn't obsolete, it wasn't antiquated, it wasn't over design limits on storage. We weren't contending with climate change. We weren't engaged with terrorism, the threats of terrorism. All of these issues never existed in 1972. They're here, front and present today. They won't go away. All this has to be considered in the context of what we see here today, which is another Hail Mary pass. Thank you.
I'm John Gawley. I'm from Hingham, Massachusetts, 24 miles away. Thank you for everybody who's really educated and done a great job. And I'm just here to say, I want the DPA to tell everybody, close Pilgrim down and clean up your mess. This idea is a joke. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Agello. I'm from Kingston, Massachusetts, and I have a few questions about this plan. One of which I think it should be considered very seriously that there could be the spent fuel pool is just as likely to, or is just as at risk to a hydrogen explosion as the fuel rods in the core of the reactor. And so I think that there should be there could be a simultaneous sort of problem here with spent fuel pool losing electricity and being unable to cool its spent fuel rods, and the reactor core being unable to cool its spent fuel rods. So there would there should be a plan that addresses a simultaneous sort of accident between those two. And I don't think that the current plan that they're proposing does that, because attention would have to be split between both those problems, and it would be kind of like a pick your poison sort of thing. There should be a system in place where there shouldn't be any choice necessary. And also, I'm wondering if the control room where they would be able to know if there was the risk of a spent fuel fire, or the risk of a meltdown, if that would even be operating in the event of a loss of AC power, if it's needed electricity to run that system that can tell them if the spent fuel pool is dangerously low, or if there's the amount of time that they have to prevent a meltdown. And so I think that should be taken into consideration in giving them this permit. I don't know if it's in their plans, whether they know when exactly they're going to implement these pumps, if they know the extent to which they have to have enough time to do so. So, yeah, which is a question. Thank you.
Any other folks want to come? Please, sir.
Good morning. My name is Anatol Zuckerman. I'm a member of Plymouth Energy Committee. And reportedly, what I've heard and read is that the Entergy, the owner of the Pilgrim Station, has collected a lot of money in their trust fund to close the station. So if if that is true, then the closure of the station is imminent. If it's imminent, then why are we discussing this ridiculous project that will be a waste of public money? I'd like anyone to answer this question. What is it in the trust fund? When is it going to be enough to close the station? Thank you.
Please, sir.
My name is Brian Boyle. I'm a private citizen from Truro, Mass. on Cape Cod, and right across the bay from the Pilgrim Nuclear Station. I can actually see the station with binoculars from my front porch. What concerns me is that the public purpose at play here is predicated upon a beyond design basis external event. I think in layman's terms, to me, that means really a hurricane. And that's the most likely event that's going to cause the kind of problem that we're talking about. Certainly this kind of event that has caused problems with other nuclear plants. So I just want to paint a picture of being in a hurricane and operating this system. Living on the water and kind of growing up on waterfronts around boats, I kind of have a respect for what nature can do in a high wind situation. And, I'll be at home and my wife will suggest, let's go to the movies. And then she'll say, nah, it's about 40 miles an hour wind out there. We might get blown off Route 6 on our way to Wellfleet. So at 60 miles an hour, I'm afraid to go outside because I'll lose my footing. At 80 miles an hour, I'm at risk of airborne objects hitting me and injuring me. A nuclear plant, those are within design basis events. Beyond design basis event is much more serious than that. And I don't think a human being in their right mind would be out in such a condition. I think anybody who asked a human being to go out in such a condition could be committing that person to their death. And so I certainly would not want to be in a position asking the Plymouth Fire Department or an employee of Energy to go out and man this contraption when the winds are blowing at beyond design basis speeds, when debris is blowing around and waves are crashing. I think you're really talking about public purpose. You're really doing exactly the opposite. And so I don't really see how this could possibly work without really injuring human beings, and that's not the public purpose. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, sir.
Hi, my name is Dustin Taylor. I'm a resident of Plymouth. Just want to say, unfortunately, the needs for this type of security system are no longer hypothetical. We've seen them happen with superstorms, emo. We've also seen what happens when a power plant loses electricity. Fortunately, that power plant is the same as ours, so we need to take those lessons from that event. Mainly what they did didn't work to stop the meltdown. Just spraying water from the beach not only didn't work, but it also exposed a lot more people to radiation, and even the people on the beach that are going to be hosing down this the coolant are going to be exposed to high levels of radiation that'll then go into the bay. So no doubt we need a security plan, or safety plan, to fix this scenario, but this is just not it. So we need to send them back to the drawing board and get something that will work, something that's improved. Thank you.
Please, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Janet Bazarovitz, and I too live on the Cape, Falmouth. And I thank you for having this hearing. I understand it is not a routine thing that's been, conducted. This edict from the NRC grew out of Fukushima from a special panel set out by President Obama, and it is supposed to be lessons from Fukushima. This is, to me, I've seen the pictures of Fukushima, we all have today. This is the same kind of fix as the ultimate spraying of the water over this plant is what has happened in Japan. It's contaminated the water, and we have plumes of it moving across and now approaching California, as proven by some Hui scientists. We were lucky and didn't experience Hurricane Sandy as might have happened just for a fluke of nature. The direction of the storm changed. And since, I would say, the last 2 years, I've been attending meetings of the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee. And there were a number of emergency directors that went down to New York and helped in that area. And they came back and said to their organization that there's no way that they could handle that kind of situation on Cape Cod. But, if it were to hit this area, it would hit Plymouth. So this whole thing, this Fukushima fix, it's incredible that would be put out there as, even if we're not going to experience an event like Fukushima, the fact that it's out there, it should be the best that we can do. It's, a last resort attempt, but even a last resort attempt should be done putting as much money into it. And my theory is that bottom line, Energy will put as little money into it as they can possibly put into it. But it should not be accepted, it should not be permitted. And this mooring, the hearing here is about the moorings. It's much bigger than that. And having heard what Entergy has done in Plymouth. They do things piecemeal, and each one of those permits, you know, is a small part of a very big picture and kind of flies under the radar. This should not happen here, and I really hope that you're listening to us, that our words are not going out into cyberspace. I don't know that you're recording and bringing it back for discussion, but I hope that you do. I think it's more important than a lot of issues that we're facing today.
Thank you. Today's event is being recorded. Any other comments, please? Dan?
My name is Susan Carpenter from South Dennis on the Cape, and I was fortunate on Sunday to go see a play called Hurricane that dealt with a nuclear accident during the storm. And it was one of the most chilling things I have ever experienced. I could imagine what it was like out there when the people were stuck in a little shack on the dunes. And I got thinking, as one of the characters in the play was thinking about going outside to escape, I thought about those men standing out there trying to hold ropes and pull water and put it on the plant, and somehow it doesn't fit. I cannot imagine it being humanly possible to stand outside in a superstorm and save the plant. That's why it needs to be shut down.
Thank you again, and everybody else, thank you very much. There were just 2 points that I didn't quite get to make. One was that even though we trade title epics, and we're now actually in the 3rd one since the Pilgrim has been instructed. In the first 2 epics, sea level rose a couple of inches and changed the mean low water line. But the blizzard of '78, which you're all old enough to remember,
Sadly.
is on the epic charts for the Boston buoy still the highest water level that we have. And it is on this plan the level of that top heavily dashed line. When the blizzard of '78 hit, you may remember, this area got a couple of feet of snow over a couple of day period. And the tide didn't leave for 4 days. It stayed in. And although that was the maximum high tide level, they're not talking about the waves. So where's that, where's the
What are you looking for?
I want the movie. You said you were going to save it for me.
The what?
The video.
Oh, I thought it was in your slideshow.
It is right there. So how do I play it? I just wanted to leave you with this thing. There it is, down on the bottom, Karen. Hit the go sign. There you go. So this was a satellite news service.com took during the March 2013. This is not the blizzard of '78. This is a normal nor'easter. And where Bert's is right there, that's higher than where the portable pump is going to be. That's higher. This property is all of 6 feet lower than the turbine building at Pilgrim. The DE zone, which for the people in the audience is that zone here which is flooded and has a 2-foot wave action over it, is all FEMA will give you. That zone is behind the building, the turbine building at Pilgrim, as I showed you on the other side. But how are you going to send guys out there to deploy the portable pump in a storm that lasts a couple of days? I submit to you that you're not, and therefore there is no public purpose for granting them a license.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak today? Yeah?
Nancy Nowak from Duxbury. I think it's really important we look at Fukushima as our benchmark for where we want to go and what we want to do. But I think that there are some other current history environmental disasters that have occurred in our country. Think Katrina, 2005. The Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers, to my understanding, had met with probably national and state leaders to discuss what would happen if it hit right at the levees. And they said, probably not, probably not. So we must think probably, in this country with climate change, as has been said. And so those people went to sleep. The leaders of the state and the city and the country went to sleep. They knew that there was a disaster in probability. And we must not think that way. We hope that our leaders, our state leaders, NRC, and corporations that are serving the public, that we will find other means for electricity and for energy in our state as rapidly as possible, and do what we can to put the trouble that's there in the rods in dry cast, make it as safe as possible for our grandchildren, their grandchildren, and our heritage.
I think that was our last commenter. Before we close the hearing up, please.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Heller. My house is right on the bay. I live probably about 7 miles from the energy power plant. I wasn't going to speak today because I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but my feeling is that this project is inadequate, and it's probably not better thought out because of the very low probability that a system like this would have to be employed because of a local storm event or some kind of earthquake. Even as a low probability, if something like that would happen, it would be a terrible disaster of unimagined proportions. But I think what we have to think of in this day where there are a lot more terrorist threats and a lot more network terrorism, where electrical grids can be affected by a terrorist organization. I just heard a program on NPR yesterday about that. I think we have to worry about a terrorism threat. Boston has already been rather a center for terrorist activity. Plymouth is known as America's hometown. And I would hate for word to get out that all you have to do to cause an incredible disaster in all of our region of Cape Cod, which is so famous, is to interrupt the power grid. I don't know how long it would take before the power would be shut down to the extent that it would cause a nuclear meltdown, but from what I'm hearing today, it doesn't sound like it would be all that long, and if that happens, there isn't really an adequate response to that. So, again, I don't want to seem alarmist, but as we're approaching this new era of increased terrorism, this does seem like a real concern. So This program, this project is inadequate. It is, I think we really need to make sure that in the case of this possible power interruption, that we have a stronger plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment today? Okay, thanks so much. We'll be closing the hearing. Dave, is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
I would like just to give Entergy the opportunity to make one last statement if they wish so. It's not necessary. He's all set. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming this morning and offering insight into this project. Just please note that DEP will accept written comments until the close of the comment period, which will be December 8, 2014. We do encourage written comments.